What's going on, everyone? I'm back here with another video for you guys, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my full review on the 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro with Touch Bar. So, I know it's been quite a while since I initially made the unboxing of this computer, but I was really just wanting to make sure that I had enough time to mess around with it, and so I can give you guys kind of my legitimate opinions on it and my overall thoughts with having using it for the past 2 to 3 months. So I feel now I can give you guys a pretty decent review and kind of what I think and what I like or dislike about this particular laptop. So let's go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, I'm just going to go ahead and start with the general hardware of the computer and kind of what it has on the outside of it. And then as well as some of the internal specs you might come to expect, as well as the particular model that I have currently here. So, and then after I go over all that, I'll just kind of give you guys my thoughts on it and tell you what I think. So, anyway, starting off, like I said, let's go ahead and start with the just general hardware. So first and foremost, you might notice I have a case on it right now. I'm kind of particular about that. I like to keep my devices really kind of pristine. So this is a generic case that you can get off of Amazon. I will provide a link in the description below if you guys are interested in picking up a case for your MacBook. But anyway, so I have the space gray color. You can also pick it up in the silver color, which is the classic color for the MacBook Pro that we're actually all used to. But anyway, on the top here, underneath the case, is the Apple logo right here in the center. The one bummer thing about that, though, is that this particular model of the MacBook Pro, since the screen is so thin, you no longer get a light-up Apple logo like we did on previous versions. So a lot of people were kind of disappointed to see that, but anyway, oh well, that's some of the sacrifices you have to make to have a super thin laptop. Anyway, so on the front here, we just have the inlet for your finger to open up the display. On this side, you have your two USB-C / Thunderbolt 3 connectors, and you have 4 of these, and those are the only ports on the computer, which was the biggest controversy at the time. So then again, you have 2 more of those ports on this side as well as a 3.5mm headphone jack. But yeah, these USB-C connectors were a big controversy when the MacBook Pro first came out in 2016, so last year. A lot of people were kind of upset that Apple really only put USB-C as the I/O connector for your peripherals. I've kind of come to get used to it because I have just various adapters that kind of use it really well, and have kind of got my own little system going. One adapter though that I can really highly recommend is this one here. It's called the Nanda Mini USB 3.0 adapter. And it's really small. Basically, you just connect your USB 3.0 device into this end, and then instantly it's converted into USB-C. So you don't really need a dongle or an adapter or whatever to use with this. So you just plug it in, and it's a plug-and-play type situation, and you are good to go. So that's kind of my ideal. I didn't really want to have a bunch of dongles hanging off of my computer. So that's kind of something that I kind of did there. And I did make a separate video demonstrating this. So if you guys want to check it out, I will also provide a link for this in the description as well. But anyway, now moving on to the back, we see the hinge for the display is now all encased in metal, which is super nice. So you no longer have that black bar that used to be there on previous versions. And then underneath that, you have the ventilation system. So you can see you have vents on the left and right side here. And then moving to the bottom, you do have more vents. These are just for the case. That doesn't relate to the actual computer. But you do have left and right side vents on the bottom of the computer here. So you can see these little inlets here are where the fans suck in the air and then it blows it out the back. So you have one there and one on the opposite side as well. So that's really nice there. And then if we open it up, you can see we have the newly designed trackpad and keyboard. So the trackpad on the 2016 and 17 MacBook Pros are much larger than they were previously. So it has a much larger surface area to give you more area to work with. which at first I was kind of skeptical on how exactly I would really like this particular size of a trackpad. It did take a little bit of time to get used to, but as time kind of went on and I was using it more and more, the larger size actually to me is now preferred, because with the smaller size trackpads, now going back to that, I tend to kind of, when I'm kind of dragging files around, I'll kind of go off the edge because I'm expecting it to be much larger than it initially is. So having extra surface area to work with is super, super nice. So really welcome that. It just, like I said, in the very initial beginning, you will have to get used to it. Because you do sometimes when you're typing, you put your hand on it and it kind of will put some sporadic inputs into the display and things like that. Now, it does have pretty decent palm rejection, but there are times where you'll get that instance to where the trackpad will kind of do something by accident and you won't really want it to. So that is something to keep a lookout. So you want to try to not really put your hands on the trackpad as much as possible because of that reason. But anyway, another thing with the trackpad is that it has the force touch technology, meaning that the trackpad itself is not an actual button. It uses force touch sensors that detect your pressure of your press. So you can basically do a light press and it acts as a standard click, or you can do a hard press and it'll act as a secondary click, or the right click that we're all used to. Or you can still do the right click by putting 2 fingers on the trackpad as well. So all of that is still there. And again, the force touch technology is something that I have now come to really, really enjoy, because of the fact that it basically can be used anywhere on the trackpad. So you can press in the top corners and you get the same amount of feedback no matter where you click on the trackpad. Super nice, super convenient, and it's just a really nice pleasure to use. Anyway, moving up here now to the keyboard. This is another redesign. So you have gone with the chiclet style keyboard that has been in all of the other MacBook Pros. Now we have the butterfly mechanism, meaning that the keys themselves are much thinner and much wider than they were before. So the actual key itself is much more, has a larger surface area. Kind of the overall theme with this computer is larger surface area, I guess, because the trackpad's larger, the keys are ever so slightly larger, and things like that. But typing on it is actually really, really nice. I thought I was not going to like it initially, but using it for the past few months, typing on this is super fast and really, really intuitive, because the key presses are actually really clicky, and they have enough travel to where you know when you're pressing it, you actually feel a decent click. So really, really good there. And I do have a keyboard cover on it as well. That was kind of something that came with the case. So if you buy the case, you get the keyboard cover as well, so that's really nice. The one thing that I don't particularly like about this keyboard is the arrow keys over here. So you can see the left and right keys are perfectly fine. It's the up and down that I don't like. They're really small, and if you're not looking at the keyboard, it's kind of hard to tell which key it is you're pressing. I've had times where when I'm intending to hit the down key, or the down arrow key, I'll sometimes hit the up when I am not meaning to do that. So you kind of have to feel with your fingers and feel that indentation in the middle and make sure that, yeah, okay, I'm hitting the down arrow and you're good to go there. So that's kind of a little caveat that I was not particularly happy about. But anyway, that's really, really minor. Another thing slightly with the keyboard real quick is that each individual key now is backlit, meaning that each key is much more pronounced with the light on it. So each key will be much more visible in a dark room than it was previously. So there's also much less light leakage. And then above that you have the touch bar, which is one of the big features of this MacBook Pro. And basically what that is, it's a touchscreen strip that replaces the function keys at the top of the keyboard and basically changes dynamically depending on whatever application you have currently open. So right now I'm on the lock screen and it's just giving some contextual menu keys such as brightness, keyboard brightness, volume, pause, play for music, and then the escape key and such like that. So it's a really neat thing. In the beginning it wasn't terribly too useful, but again, just like everything else on this computer, the more that I have used it, the more I've actually come to really, really enjoy it. So there are certain functions on that touch bar that are incredibly useful. So say for example I'm in iMovie and I want to split a video in half, or a clip in half rather. There's a button right on the middle that you can actually click it and it immediately splits the video. It's super useful and cuts down on time significantly, actually. So things like that, there's certain just little tiny things that the touch bar can do that just kind of overall make the experience a little bit better than it was before. I wouldn't say the touch bar is a necessity, so you don't really actually totally need it. And I don't think it really justifies the price increase as well, but it is nice to have when it's there and you want to use it. And then on the right side here, you have Touch ID. As you can see, it says use or unlock with Touch ID, and it has a little bouncing arrow. So you basically just rest your finger on that, and you can see the screen kind of opened up there, and we're now on the desktop. And it actually is really, really fast because it's using the 2nd generation Touch ID sensor, just like we have on the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8 as well. So that's super, super nice. And then up on top here, display, which is a Retina display, just like we had previously with the previous Retina display MacBook Pros. The resolution and the clarity on this thing is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it is one of the best laptop displays I have come across currently. It is just super sharp and just super, super vivid colors, and it's a really, really pleasant thing to look at on a daily basis. Since you are looking at it pretty much every day, it's something that you really want it to look nice, and it does. The display is really sharp and really bright and colorful, and it just is a pleasure to look at. And it does have a relatively high resolution considering the small screen size. So you have a 2560 by 600 pixel resolution with a 227 pixel per inch as well. So yeah, it's really, really good, and it also uses IPS technology, so the off-axis viewing angles will be significantly better than previous versions as well. And another thing, it also has the wide color gamut. So you're getting kind of this really nice package of a display in a really small package of a laptop. So kudos off to Apple. They did a really good job on the display. I really don't have any complaints with that, so that's really good. And then above the display up here, you have your ambient light sensor, your 720p FaceTime HD camera for your video calls and whatever have you, such as that. And then you have the little green LED indicator light that will let you know that the camera is active. And then back down here on the bottom, we have stereo speakers. We have one here on the left, flanking the left and right sides of the keyboard. And I have to say, this is another really thing I have to give really good thumbs up for, is the speaker quality and the sound quality is phenomenal. I mean, again, it's not the best that you can get in a laptop, but the sound is absolutely superb. I mean, there's times where I'll be listening to a video and it has kind of this surround sound effect to where you'll be watching a video and you'll hear something within the video and it'll sound like it's really, really far to the left or right side of you. And there's been times where I've actually looked over because I thought there was something making noise next to me, but it was actually coming from the computer itself. It's really an interesting kind of experience. You have to kind of have certain videos that will give you that kind of surround sound effect that use the stereo speakers in that way. But when you do, it's really weird. It's interesting to say the least. So yeah, the speakers on this are really, really good. Very happy about that. No complaints at all. And then you also have dual microphones that are on the left side here underneath this speaker grill. That's good for your Siri, your video calls, things like that. So you can also have noise cancellation, which it does have via software. So you can actually turn noise cancellation on or off depending on what you would like. So yeah, that's basically the hardware of the MacBook Pro and kind of my thoughts on the hardware, some of the things I liked and disliked. Anyway, now let's go ahead and move on to some of the tech specs and some of the technical specs that are specific to this particular model. So starting with the particular specs for this particular MacBook, currently I have the fully spec'd out 13-inch MacBook Pro that you can get as of now. So this one has the 3.5 gigahertz dual-core hyper-threaded 7th generation Intel Core i7 Kaby Lake processor. That's a really long name considering for that. So it's not the 8th generation Intel processor, unfortunately. But nonetheless, it is super good. It's also going to be turbo boosted up to 4 gigahertz. Now, unfortunately, you don't get quad-core processor just like you can on the 15-inch model. So that's something that kind of was disappointing to me. So I wish Apple could have somehow fit the quad-core processor into the 13-inch, but unfortunately they did not. So anyway, so that's the processor for this. The RAM I have here is 16 gigs of 2133 megahertz DDR3 RAM. So that's the highest amount of RAM that you can get in this particular model. And then lastly, you have the terabyte SSD, which is a super fast SSD, mind you. You get anywhere from about 2300 to 2500 read and write speeds when just overall using the computer. So the SSD in this is super blazingly fast. One of the fast that I have ever seen in a laptop as of current. So then the price for this particular model came out to about $3,400 after taxes, as well as the Apple Care. So I did add the Apple Care warranty, which I think added about $300 extra, which is something that I would highly recommend, because if you happen to break it or drop it or something malfunctions, you'll basically be able to get those parts replaced for free, essentially. So it's a really, really good thing to spend that extra bit of money. And then you do have the Intel Iris Plus Graphics 650, which has about 1.5 to 2 gigabytes of VRAM. So it's an integrated graphics. Unfortunately, you don't have a discrete graphics card or a dedicated GPU just like you have in the 15-inch. But nonetheless, it definitely gets the job done. Then the Wi-Fi is 802.11ac, which also is backwards compatible with the A, B, G, and N protocols. And then it has Bluetooth 4.2, which is not the most current version of Bluetooth, which is something that I was disappointed to see, because currently we have the Bluetooth 5.0, I believe, which is the most current version, and has some actually really neat features. So it's disappointing to me that Apple didn't put the most current version of Bluetooth in this particular computer. And then the battery that is packed in here is a 49.2 watt hour lithium polymer battery that can get you up to 10 hours of wireless web browsing, 10 hours of music, and then you can get about 30 days of standby. Now, those are Apple's claimed battery times. Of course, that will change depending on how you use the computer. So if you use very processor intensive applications such as iMovie or Final Cut Pro, Photoshop, Lightroom, things like that, you will see the battery drain way quicker than you're initially used to, probably. But that is to be expected. But if you're someone that is just using this to browse the web or do email and things like that, you should get about a full solid day of battery life before you have to charge, which isn't really the best. That is one of my complaints with this computer, is the battery life really isn't the greatest. I've had instances where I really haven't been doing very much, and the computer will start out at 100% in the morning, and then probably around about 12 o'clock noon, I'll have to actually plug it in because it'll be down to about 5% or something stupid like that. So I don't know what the problem is with that. Maybe that's a software issue that's draining the battery. But I have noticed that going from a 2011 MacBook Pro, 13-inch MacBook Pro, that was my initial daily driver for the past about 5-6 years up until now. I have to say that the battery feels slightly worse than the 2011 MacBook Pro, which is really weird. So yeah, that's kind of a huge disappointment for me. I really wish that the battery was a lot better than it actually is, but unfortunately that's the way it is. Now, it is odd that you're paying almost about $4 grand for this computer, and then the battery life is kind of subpar and is slightly worse than a 5-6 year old MacBook Pro. That's just that is unacceptable to me. I'm sorry, but that's just something that's really bad. So yeah, the battery is really, to me, not at all the greatest. But again, like I said, it could be just some software issue that is draining the battery, so hopefully that is the case. Then lastly, the weight of the computer is really, really small and light. It only weighs just over 3 pounds. And when you're holding this thing for the first time, it's actually quite amazing at how thin and light it initially is. When I picked it up for the first time, I was like blown away. I'm like, whoa, this thing is super, super small and light. Compared to my older version, that 2011 MacBook, it is way smaller than that, than the previous ones. It is super, really nice. And it also is running macOS Sierra. I know High Sierra is out right now, but High Sierra has so many glitches in it that I just can't justify upgrading to that right now. I have no intent on doing that anytime soon. I really would recommend everyone else hold off as well, because macOS High Sierra really has some terrible, terrible glitches and bugs in it that will render the computer unusable in some cases. So really, stay away from High Sierra for the time being. It's a really not a good idea to upgrade at this point in time. Now, later on, once it gets refined, it probably will be, but as of now, I can't recommend doing that. But anyway, yeah, that's basically the main tech specs of the computer. But yeah, so let's go ahead and just take a quick look at some of the things that you can kind of come to expect using the computer. So some of the trackpad gestures and force touch type things. Just to give a quick demonstration of the force touch feature on the trackpad, you can go and basically preview a file using the force touch. So if you force press on it, it will open up the preview for that particular file, which is really nice. And you can also use that to get a definition for a particular word. So if I type in something, let's just say cat, and then you want to get a definition, you force press on that word, and then as you see here, it'll give you a definition for the word cat. So that's a really, really useful feature that I actually use quite often. And these gestures and stuff, you can change within these settings. So if we go over here to the settings application and we go to trackpad, as you can see, there's a lot of different features and functions that you can turn on and off and customize to your liking. So you can look up and data detectors. You can do a force click or tap with 3 fingers to get your preview. You have the secondary click. You can click with 2 fingers, bottom corner, right corner, left corner, things like that. Tap to click, force click, and haptic feedback. So this does have haptic feedback that you can turn on and off. So if you don't want to have that click feeling when pressing on the trackpad, you can easily turn that off right here. Then you have trackpad speed to click speed, things like that, scroll and zoom, and then more gestures for app expose, launchpad, notification center, things like that. So it's pretty cool. It's really widely customizable, surprisingly, which is super, super nice. And you also do have Siri on the new MacBook Pro. So you can see over here we have a dedicated Siri button on the touch bar. So if you press that, you can see you can get Siri. And you can see Siri will talk back to you. The weird thing is, though, is that there is no modernized voice for the Siri. I have tried everything possible to try to get the updated voice for Siri, and I have no idea how to do that. So if anybody has a clue on how to get the updated Siri voice for the MacBook Pro, I would be greatly appreciated if you guys could leave a comment below on how to do that. Because I have been trying for the past several months to get that downloaded or get it sorted out, but I have yet to figure it out. So I don't know what the heck's going on, but they did state that there should be an updated voice, but I have yet to find that. So yeah, but anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button right down below. It is super appreciated, helps out the channel, and hit that thumbs up button as well. That is also greatly appreciated. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or need help, or whatever have you, drop those comments in the section below, and I'll get back to them as soon as I possibly can. So, yeah, with that all being said, once again, hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.